G'day anti-socialites, this is Ryan Quarrington here. You might remember me from episode 227 and from South Australian band Shatterbrain and Alkira. I'm momentarily commandeering this episode to plug Shatterbrain's debut album Pitchfork Justice, which is out now via Wormhole Death Records. It's available for streaming wherever you stream your music, or if you're a fan of old school physical, you can pick up a CD or a vinyl along with any other band paraphernalia you can think of via our online store at shatterbrainmetal.com. Thanks for listening, over to you Andy and Larry.
Ahoy! Welcome to the Antisocial Podcast, another episode this week. And before we kick into it, you guys know the drill. Patreon.com/Andy Dowling is a place to go to support this podcast. It keeps this whole thing rolling, and support starts from only $1 a month. Dirt cheap. There are additional tiers there to get access to exclusive stuff, including exclusive podcast episodes. So come on over to patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Thank you very much. Episode 235 of the Antisocial Podcast is here in your ear holes, and this week's guest is Rusty Cooley, the world-famous guitarist, an amazing shred demon, in my words. I'm sure many of you have grown up watching Rusty's instructional videos, videos of him shredding all over the internet. An amazing guy, well-respected in the... the guitarist's world? In the musician's world? Sure. An amazing musician, and after chatting to him on this podcast, an amazing guy. Really enjoyed chatting to him. Could have kept talking for ages, and hopefully won't be the last time we get to talk, but go and check him out on the socials. Of course, go to rustycooley.com. His band Day of Reckoning, their latest release that came out in March, I believe, called Spread Your Disease. Total coincidence, but quite funny given what's been going on this year. We talk a bit about that in this chat, but an amazing guy, lots of great stories, and I really hope you enjoy it. As always, everything will be in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net, so make sure you reach out to him and say hello. But enough yapping from me. Please enjoy this great chat with the amazing Rusty Cooley.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I haven't really been affected by it too much, other than in the beginning when it was hard to go get toilet paper and supplies at the grocery store and stuff like that. That was the only time I was really affected by it, because I practice social distancing. I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just, it hasn't been that bad. I don't get out much. I stay at home and I teach and play guitar, and I really haven't noticed anything because I don't get out and do all that kind of stuff anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't have the bars all night anymore. That was years ago. But so I don't really notice it, to be honest with you, except for it's jammed on every media news station and, you can possibly find.
Yeah, I think, you got to pick and choose what you want to pay attention to, and obviously, I think for you, and that was one of the things I was going to ask, is I couldn't imagine, and not really knowing a lot about you, but obviously, following what you've been doing over the years, that you wouldn't have been too impacted by this, because you've been working remotely and working in the way that you have for so many years now. So really, apart from maybe some minor adjustments, because I think you still do some stuff in person with people, but for the most part, a lot of it's sort of online.
Yeah, and when it first started, that first month or so, I was definitely impacted by it, because people were all kind of, freaking out, trying to figure out what they're going to do. Some people were losing their jobs and stuff like that, and I lost a few students, and I was starting to sweat it a little bit, and then miraculously, things have actually picked up, and then some for me. So knock on wood, I'm hoping that it stays that way. And I was teaching at a music school one day a week, and I had several students that would come to my home studio for lessons. And then when all that stuff went into play, everybody went online for Skype. So thank God for technology today, because all the kids are doing Skype or Zoom anyway for their schools, so they're already set up to do it for guitar lessons if necessary. So it's worked out to be, okay. You know what I mean? It could be worse, that's for sure.
Oh, man, absolutely. I think I'd hate to think what it would have been like even 5 years ago had this all happened then.
Oh yeah.
Because
I couldn't imagine it what I would have done if it would have been back when I was teaching exclusively at a music school, because that would have been the technology. I mean, I've been teaching Skype for a long time, but it still wasn't really there, and I didn't do it a whole lot back then. But I did more in person. But now it's all switched around, and it kind of works out pretty good, man. Once you get the hang of how everything works online and stuff, it's pretty good. I mean, it certainly has some limitations due to the fact that you only got one camera angle and stuff like that, and it's kind of hard to get super precise when I'm trying to watch somebody's technique or something like that to help them out with certain things. But so far, nope. It's all's pretty good in that arena.
I don't think it'll take long before the technology gets to a point where you can feed multiple cameras through and do all that, because I think just in the last few months, I mean, I just watching, even Zoom just updating their technology so quickly just out of necessity because of what's going on in the world. And no doubt, Skype and a number of these other platforms are just looking at it going, what can we do? Because there'll be different needs for these platforms now. I mean, I just look at corporations suddenly having no one working in the office block anymore, and they're all working from home, and suddenly it's just like diving into this world where people could barely turn on a computer to begin with, and now they've got to work out video streaming and these multi-conference sort of video teleconferences and all that sort of stuff. And I think, it's been a massive exponential increase in technology over the past few years anyway, but I think now it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few months, let alone years.
Yeah, that's for sure. I like the possibilities of the technology in the respect that you can have things now. I know via Zoom you can have, if you have a subscription for a small fee like $12 or $15 a month, you can have a ton of people online at once. So I could potentially do group lessons or music clinics or guitar performances, all from home. And that would be pretty cool for sure.
Oh man, just opens up the possibilities, doesn't it? It really.
Yeah.
And I think I was doing a little bit of looking around online, just some old interviews that you've done over the years, and I think there was one where you just mentioned about sort of the ability of being able to work from home, but working in, you're not living in a really sort of, you're not living in an LA or a New York or anything like that. You're living in a preferred area. And because of the internet and because of that connectivity, you can live where you want to live rather than where you have to live. And I think that's just super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's technology has definitely changed that spectrum of the music industry, and that's a good thing, because there's a lot of people that, can't just get up and move and go to LA or New York, which was the thing to do in the day. That was the only place to go if you wanted to had any shot at, making it a career out of it. But, with the internet, you can be anywhere and develop a following and actually make some good money if you do it right with your YouTube channel, and if you post enough videos and, do something, that keeps people's interest, you can make some revenue off that for sure.
Did you ever, sorry, let me reword this. Did you ever think that this would be the path that you take, sort of not so much with the technology aspect, but I guess sort of working in that independent solo capacity rather than working, traditionally as a musician in a band and touring and performing? Because you've done bits of that over the years, but you've really lent heavy into this independence and creating your own profile as an independent artist, but also a teacher and all this sort of stuff. Was that always sort of the plan that you go in that direction eventually?
No, it wasn't. Years ago, when I was a lot younger in the early days, I used to kind of, I used to think about teaching as, well, this is what I'm going to do until I, quote, make it. I always kind of thought it looked down. Now, I don't get me wrong. I always have loved to teach, but I always thought it made me not as, not as respected if I was just teaching guitar. And what changed my mind was when I was talking to a friend of mine. I was doing co-wrote a song with a friend of mine, a keyboard player. I don't want to mention any names, but he called me on the phone one day, and he's like, dude, man, I got to take off for a month. I got to go do this crappy tour to pay the bills. And it was a huge pop star Okay. And he didn't like doing the gigs, but he had to do it to make the money to pay the bills. Right. And at that moment I went, aha, this is making sense to me, because at the time my kids were small, and, I was married at the time and had the whole family thing going on and stuff like that. And touring for me wasn't really a big option at the moment. And, that's when I really made the realization that, wow, this is cool, because now, because of what I'm doing, I'm teaching a full run of students. I was teaching like 65 students a week, making really good money. And that moment was just like an aha moment, because then I totally just rethought the whole thing. And I kind of know I'm kind of rambling right now, but it was that moment that I thought that, okay, this makes sense for me, because now I can do the music that I want to do no matter what, and still make a living teaching, and not have to take gigs that I don't want to take because I have to pay the bills. I've never played in a cover band. Matter of fact, I maybe only know how to, I couldn't even play a whole song by somebody else all the way through right now. I've learned a couple things with students and stuff like that, but I've never really been into that. So I could have never done cover gigs. And this is cool, because I just play the music that I choose to play, and spend my time doing that and teaching. And, it's pretty cool. Now, granted, if this whole COVID-19 bullcrap wouldn't have started, Day of Reckoning was getting ready to go out full force. We had some touring set up, and we've got working with Artery Global Booking Agency, and we were setting up some small things first, and then to test the waters, and then we were going to eventually be going out for doing it all over, hopefully going all around the world and all that kind of stuff, and across the U.S. and things like that. So that was the plan, but everything's been shelved for now. I think we've got a couple of gigs like at the end of July and early August, but just like some Texas stuff. Just kind of see how it goes. I mean, after this whole, it's like everything's on lockdown again, it seems like, as of today. Well, I mean, not lockdown. I mean, nobody's quarantined in their homes, but it's like they're making everybody shut the bars down and stuff like that. No socially hanging out and stuff. But so, I mean, if that stuff happens, then there's no place to play. I can't imagine being a touring musician and relying on that as my sole income in what's going on now. That would be pretty rough. And considering not only the musicians, but all the roadies and techs and stuff like that rely on their artists to be out touring to make their money as well.
It's a chain reaction, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
I'm watching. It's been fascinating, because I'm certainly one of the lucky ones from my side. I've been able to sort of just continue to cruise and do what I do from my end, and from a band perspective, our band wasn't meant to really be playing until later this year, but it wasn't all locked in. And obviously, right. I think that'll be a 2021 at some stage plan now. But, it's been interesting watching a lot of peers and friends have to adjust dramatically to what's been going on. And some of the more positive stories where people are really getting creative and developing new skills to try and find other ways to generate income, keep the branding out there. And it's been kind of inspiring to see some of that stuff happen. Yeah. It's like that whole, through adversity, you come out the other end stronger and better than ever before. So yeah, it's definitely a testing time, but it's very, very interesting to be watching.
I would agree totally. I mean, there's a blessing and a curse and everything. And obviously we know what the curse of this is, but the blessing is that we're going to come out of this a whole lot more creative and maybe stumble onto some things that we might not have ever stumbled upon because of this, having to seek out other ways to be resourceful and creative and whatnot. So I think there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of it as well. Hopefully it'll bring everyone together and a whole lot more instead of separating everybody. You know what I mean? Even though everybody's on, social distancing or whatever, but I think just as a human race, hopefully it'll make everybody tighter and not more distanced.
You can only hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Was it a coincidence with the EP title and given what's been going on in the world?
Oh yeah, totally. That EP title was like set with, we had that like over a year ago, and it's just like luck of the draw. You know what I mean? Perfectly timed, I suppose. Imperfectly perfect. Yeah.
I had a feeling that it was probably a coincidence given it came out in March, didn't it? And I figured, well, you didn't write the song a week earlier or anything like that. So, or the EP, I should say. So, yeah.
Right. Didn't hurt to change the album cover and all that shit. So,
quick, let's capitalize on this one.
Really coincidental. And we haven't gotten any grief over it. So, that's good. I think if people are, step back and take a look at it, but a lot of people that don't know what it's like to be a working musician don't realize things that go into it and how long you plan and work at things. A lot of people might just assume that, oh yeah, they just changed the title now and whatever, but who knows? I don't know what everybody's thinking, man. Try not to worry about it either.
No, I think you stay in your lane and just do your own thing and make the most of what you have at your own fingertips. Not worry about all the noise.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can't consume yourself with that, or it's just going to eat you up.
For sure. One thing that I noticed with the EP, I was quite surprised, and then when I dug a bit deeper, I think I've worked out the connection. But I was surprised to see Carl Sanders on or contributing to one of the tracks on the EP. And I'm like, oh, that's a really cool connection with Niall. But then I'm pretty sure you've worked with George in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I met George through Carl. Me and Carl have been friends for quite some time. A student of mine years ago, around the time the Ithyphallic CD came out by Niall, told me that, hey, man, Carl Sanders is a big fan of yours. He gave you thanks in the credits on the new album. So once I heard that, I think I tried to reach out, or Carl had heard through the grapevine that I heard about it or something like that. I can't remember how we finally connected, but we started talking on the phone and just talking guitar stuff, and we've been friends ever since. We've done a lot of lessons and stuff like that, and of course I met George from Carl, obviously, and I was on George's solo album. But Carl, I mean, we're good friends. We were just hanging out the other night on Skype, talking about some things, playing guitar. But great guys for sure. So as far as the song goes, we had this interesting. The solo section was written, and I was talking to my singer about it, and and I know Carl plays a couple of other instruments, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the names of them. But I said, hey, dude, do you want to play on this? I'll send you the tabs for it. But what I didn't realize was that the instrument he's playing on doesn't have the same strings or tune anything like it. So he had to basically write the part to what I had written for the solo section, and you can hear both parts. The original guitar part is still in the track, along with what he wrote over it. And then, I rewrote the entire first half of the solo just because of what he played. It was so much more inspiring to have that vibe, going on. And we actually used part of that as the intro for the song as well. So I really dig that sound,
He's got such an eclectic way of looking at music. Like what he does is just.
Oh yeah,
you can't predict what he's gonna do next or what he gets involved with, and it's just so out there.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. He's a good guy and very creative.
With I mean, this seems to be one of many examples over the years where you've built this network of so many different people in the music industry. Like obviously going off and doing your own solo work, but collaborating with other artists, whether it be guest appearances or working together on a project, and obviously with Day of Reckoning as well, is more what appears to be more of a traditional band kind of concept that's been put together and it's been up and running for a few years now. But has that always been sort of big thing to you, or something that you were aware of even in the early days as far as the importance of building those networks of people, or is it just something that's sort of naturally
it's just kind of something that happens? But I mean, backing up to a little bit to the band scenario, talking about the technology of the internet and all that stuff. See, I've always been a band player. I never set out to be an instrumental guitar player. But it just so happens that just like Spread Your Disease coincided with what's going on now, me releasing an instrumental album coincided with the internet taking off. And so that was what the first thing the world heard of me outside of Houston. So everybody thought of me as this instrumental guitar player, where I was just taking a break from a band that I was in. And then after the instrumental album was done and released, I started a new band with Kelly Carpenter, who was the singer in Outworld, which that was the band that I started after the instrumental album. And, so I've always intended to be a band player, not an instrumental guitar player. I mean, I like playing instrumental stuff, don't get me wrong. It's definitely very cool. But I always like the just being in a band environment camaraderie and everybody working together. You know what I mean? Everybody has their part. You know, we all do our own things. I bring all the riffs to the band. We arrange the songs as a band, and then everybody writes their own parts. You know, I don't tell anybody else what to play. I mean, we get our heads together and work out things that, you know, maybe, you know, try this or try that, but we don't step on anybody's toes and tell each other what to do or anything like that. So it's everybody knows their part, and it works out really well because everybody gets to do their own thing, you know. And it's like when I bring a song in, it's never a complete song. It's all the parts that will make up the song. I might have a rough outline, but we all arrange it together and make it what it, you know, as a band, we produce the end result, you know. So that's cool. But as far as the networking thing goes, it's just, I've just intuitively have done that, you know. I don't know, you know, I don't know how that started. It just happened, you know. I knew, because when I first started sending out demos and things like that, it was before the internet, you know. So it was right at the beginning of the internet. I didn't even have a website, or I don't even think I had a computer then. I was going to the post office 2 or 3 times a week, mailing out cassettes at the time, you know, then CDs. And my son was only, you know, it was like 2 or 3, and I was going to the post office with him, you know, a couple times a week, and, you know, just mailing stuff out. But I mean, I was the guy that I would go through like Guitar Player magazine or Guitar World, and I would search through it and try to find somebody's phone, a phone number for somebody at the magazine that I could call, things like that. And I think one of my first exposures in a magazine was I was on a compilation CD called Guitarapalooza, and I think it got some exposure in Guitar. I think it was Guitar One magazine, which is no longer in existence. But they mentioned me in there for being on that CD, and then a couple of other small things came up. I released Shred Guitar Manifesto, my first instructional product, and that got a cool review in Guitar Player, which led to me eventually getting my own column in Guitar Player magazine, and got my foot in the door at Guitar One. That's when I met this guy that works at the magazine. His name is Chris O'Byrne, and I started sending him stuff. And I sent him my album. I just finished my instrumental album, and I sent it to him. And I called him up to see if he had a chance to listen to it. And he goes, no, I'm going to get to it this week, but go pick up the new issue of Guitar One. You know, you're in this little column about the fast guitar players or something like that. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I go to the store, and it's like the top 10 fastest shredders of all time, some shit like that. And it was like, man, I just couldn't believe it at the time. It was like just about every guitar player on that list had been an influence of mine. There was a couple that weren't, but just to be on that list anywhere was a total, complete honor. It was cool. So it was just that kind of stuff, you know, led to me meeting other guitar players. Back in the day, we didn't have social media. It was websites. So it was all about swapping links and trading links with people, you know what I mean, to build up your following. And I pretty much would find every online guitar webzine or whatever they called them back then to send my demo to possibly get a review or an interview or do a column for or whatever, you know, just to, you know, it's one of those things where I'm just banging on everybody's door, screaming, listen to me, you know, just to get your foot in the door. You know, there's no other way to do it. You know, you can't wait for it to come to you. You have to go take it. Music industry is kind of like a freight train coming down the tracks, and it's like, man, either get out of the way or get on and run with it, you know, because it's not going to move for you.
I definitely, I get that vibe that you've always sort of been a very sort of proactive person as far as looking for it or searching for it or creating the opportunity, rather than, I think with a lot of musicians, their faults lie in, pardon me, lie in sort of sitting back and waiting for the opportunities to come knocking on their door, thinking that the rock stardom's just you know, one phone call away or something like that, where it's no, there's a real life grind that's attached to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like, it's nonstop. I could literally work 24/7, 365 if I didn't have to sleep, because there's always something to be done between, you know, writing, recording, composing, teaching, promotion, all that stuff, you know, gigging. It's just, there's something to be done all day, every day. You know, it's just not enough time in the day. And it's like the dilemma I'm in right now, as far as guitar playing goes, is that I teach so much from home in my home studio that by the time I get done teaching, it's like, man, I got to get out of this room, you know, and then I end up not practicing because I've been teaching for so long. And then, you know, it's crazy. So I set up in I got another room right next to the home studio, and it's got some arcade machines in there, and my little home gym and stuff like that. So I threw an extra rig in there set up so that I could kind of go in there and play and not associate it with work. You know, even though work is not really work in that perspective, you know what I mean? Because I'm playing guitar, you know, I mean, I feel very blessed to be able to do this. So it's, you know, when you find something you love and you can make it living at it, that's pretty awesome. But, you know, at some point, you know, it's still work.
Yep.
As much as you love it. So I got to get out of this room. So, and then I'll try to go in there and practice, you know, just to give myself a breather, you know. So it's another one of those blessings, you know, the blessing and curse and everything, you know. So it's two sides to everything.
Oh, definitely. And I think no matter how much you enjoy your job or your work or whatever that might comprise of, I think there's once it becomes work, and especially if it's a relied on stream of revenue, then it can be exhausting, and especially from a mental point of view, just to ensure that, you know, you've got to keep that flowing and keep that going. It's not just because you want, like you feel like doing it, it's because you kind of need to do it. Like it's your livelihood. So you need to get that separation.
It's my survival for real. You know, but it's still a cool thing. I mean, you can ask any of my students. It's like, most of the time my students will go, "Hey, you know, we're over time, right?" It's like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, man, whatever." You know, I mean, I love to do it and get so into it that it's just like, you know, I'll lose track of time. You know, and if I, like, a lot of times if my last student, whoever that might be in the night, we end up going like way over time, you know, just because we're having a good time, you know. So it's pretty cool. It's good to have that in your work, you know.
One of the things that you said earlier, sort of we're talking about the networking and slowly building up these connections, and especially in Guitar Player, and you were in that list, that top 10, you know, fastest guitarists or shredders of all time list. One of the things that I remember growing up and sort of being part of that generation that had life before the internet and then life with the internet, I can sort of remember both sides, but right at the early stages of me sort of coming online, I remember the old, I'm going to get this wrong, but the old real-time videos, really shitty sort of lo-fi video clips that would fly around the internet when everyone had dial-up connections. And I remember a video clip, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that you titled the video this, but it got retitled, and it was something like fastest guitar player in the world, or fastest guitar player of all time. No name, nothing whatsoever, and it was just this very lo-fi video of you sitting there with the guitar and just doing like the fastest at the time for me, which would have been, I don't know, mid-teens or something like that, looking at this video and just not understanding what the hell I was watching, just going, oh my God. And and super fun and super cool. And so whenever your name popped up again over the years, I always remembered this video. It used to get passed around like a little viral video. Does that ring a bell with you as far as sort of those lo-fi
dude, I have
videos?
no idea what that video is. I don't know what it is, you know, because anytime that I did anything with video, it was, I had to shoot the video and then give it to somebody else to make it compatible with the computer and the internet, because I had no idea how to do any of that stuff. Yeah. You know, so I don't know what it was. Maybe somebody got something to me live. I know there was some video clips of when I played at Gym Fest in Florida. I headlined that like 2000 or 2001. It was it was called Gym Fest, about, you know, regarding gym guitars by Ibanez. But it was a charity, and all the proceeds went to Steve Vai's Make a Noise Foundation or whatever. I think that's what it's called. But anyway, there was some clips of me at soundcheck just warming up that somebody else had shot, and those ended up on the internet. But if anything, that might be one of those. Do you remember what kind of guitar I was playing? Was it the Jackson?
Oh, I cannot recall. I remember the color of the guitar was I could be way off here because I'm trying to reflect on sort of what was, you know, now 25 years, well, not 25 years ago, but 20 odd years ago. Almost like an orange or yellow, maybe. I don't know.
I think what you're thinking of is I had a Jackson 7-string that was custom made for me because I was endorsing Jackson at the time. That was the guitar that was on my album cover. So it was a natural finish with just a gunstock oil on it. So it kind of, I could see where it could look orangish or yellowish. That's probably the video.
Yeah, and mind you, the quality of the video was pretty poor. I just remember.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, especially if it was on dial-up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. God, I had dial-up forever. It's the worst.
Eventually, it's going to get to the.
You get off the computer. I got to get on and make a phone call.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean the things that you tell your kids these days, like you know, you've got like this amazing fast internet speeds that you're just used to now in everyday life, and it's like, well, when we were growing up, we had the dial-up. You know, it's the equivalent of when I had to walk to school in the snow in bare feet. You know.
Yeah, well, I've got a good one too. I was just joking around with my girlfriend the other day, and I said, "Yeah, I'm so old. My contacts used to be made out of wood." You know? So
Love it. I think with the shredding thing, was that something that you embraced as a musician and your, I guess, I mean, it's so wanky to say, but like your branding around what people thought of you as?
well, that's been again a blessing and a curse. But here's the thing: I never set out to be the fastest guitar player or anything like that. All I ever wanted to be was just as fast as my guitar heroes. It's just the problem was they just kept getting faster. So I never really thought about, the word shred back then was only associated with a setting on a blender.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So shred wasn't even a thing then, When I started playing 7-string guitar was when I kind of reprogrammed and reinvented myself as a guitar player. Because up to that point, I was playing 6-string guitar. I was in a rock band that was kind of like Skid Row meets Racer X or something like that. And I was just, I had all the top shred chops of the time, just fast alternate picking. I had, 3-note string legato, tapping, sweeping. I had all that stuff down, but it wasn't what I, turned into and became, not even close. But that's when I kind of reinvented myself and just said, all right, this is when I quit the local band, and I said, all right, I'm going to do an instrumental album, and I'm going to get my 7-string, and the album was really more of an experimentation to see how far I could push myself. I wanted to write the most intense instrumental record ever heard. That was my goal. It wasn't one, that you could sing and dance to, So yes, in a way, yeah, I was playing intense like that, but I wasn't thinking about it so much as a marketing or a branding or even a shredding, so to speak. You know what I mean? It was just something I wanted to do. I was trying to recreate the feeling that I had when I, heard like Malmsteen for the first time or Paul Gilbert. That just sheer amazement when you hear somebody that just blows your mind. I wanted to try to recreate that in the people that listened to my CD. That feeling that I got when I heard those guys. Man, first time I heard Malmsteen, it was just. It was that live, or not live, but it was that unaccompanied solo on the Steeler album. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah. That just blew my mind because up to that point, I was a huge Randy Rhoads guy. It was like Randy Rhoads die. And that's why I started teaching, because of my Randy Rhoads influence. But when I heard the Steeler thing with Yngwie, it was just like, oh man, this dude's just like way ahead of everybody else, And then, of course, then there was Sean Lane. Holdsworth, and there's a whole lot of influences, man. I got influences from every style of music you can think of, just about. But that's what keeps me going. I think that's what just helps me be creative and a little bit more original. Because I do listen to all kinds of things, from jazz, blues, funk, classical, country, whatever. But I know what I want to do as a musician, and then I channel that into that, which creates a different outcome. Whereas I always tell my students, if you just listen to metal, what do you think you're going to sound like? You're just going to regurgitate metal. You've got to go outside that realm and bring in some influences from some other areas. You can still play metal or whatever you want to play, but bring in some influences from some other styles and sounds and other instruments. I'm a huge violin fan and piano fan. I listen to those instruments a lot. Bass, guitar, I'm a huge fan of bass players. And so I draw inspiration from those instruments as well as just listening to, the human voice, to study it for vibrato, because that's what vibrato on guitar came from. It came from a guitar player trying to mimic somebody singing. So I'll spend time listening to singers. Maybe somebody like Adele. Listen to her for her vibrato. Try to mimic that. It's a good source of inspiration.
You can definitely go down a rabbit hole, can't you? Even if you just looked at guitarists alone. And starting off, especially if you're first into metal and hard rock, and then you sort of go from there. You can go down a rabbit hole really quickly as far as the varying styles and ways of playing just that one instrument, let alone just going completely outside of the realm of guitar and just looking at everything else. So it no doubt make you more well-rounded.
Yeah, and I think the thing that still blows my mind is if you think about this, the Earth, the planet that we live on, as a whole, we all use the same 12 tones. And even if you want to bring in Indian music where they bring in the quarter steps and stuff like that, which I mean, any unfretted instrument has quarter steps on it, so it's not just specific to Indian music, But basically, we're all using the same 12 tones, everybody on the planet, and there's that much diversity in the styles of music. The people that play polka use the same notes that people that are playing death metal or classical or funk or fusion or whatever. We're all using the same notes, but it's so different, and that's the beauty of it, really, I think.
I've certainly been stumped when I've picked up a guitar and I've sort of looked down at the fretboard and just thought, like, what's new here? Like, where do I place my hand to create something new? Like, because you like I'm talking to a guy who lives and breathes this, but from a pattern recognition point of view, you get stuck into old ways of playing in the same kind of runs and the same scales, and you look down and you just think, well, there's only so many notes here. How original or how creative can I get? But as you just explained, I mean, there's so many different directions to go.
There isn't, and there's something I used to have to remind myself of, is that what's difficult for, I think, any musician is being bold enough to go somewhere that they don't know what the outcome is going to be. If you listen to your favorite guitar players and you cop their licks, you know what the outcome is going to be. But if you start developing your own sound and style, you don't know what that's going to turn out to be like. You might spend 6 months or a year working on this technique, and then to go, oh, well, this was a waste of time. You know what I mean? So you have to be bold enough and willing to go somewhere that I don't want to say that nobody's ever gone before, because I think somebody's been there already, ultimately. But still, just having the dedication and commitment to follow through on your own musical ideas that you're creating, and not, mimicking your heroes and idols and things like that. That's been the biggest thing that I had to remind myself of. It's like I find myself working on some Sean Lane stuff or some Holdsworth thing or something like that, and I have to go, no, dude, you need to stop practicing this stuff and get back to your own creative musical ideas. That was always something. I mean, it wasn't like every day, but I remember that very well, and I like to teach that as well. It's like, follow through on your own ideas. Everybody has them. Just start going for it. Look at the fretboard and try to think of things and look at things in different ways. And I mean, I would spend time just looking at, like, say we're in the whatever harmonic minor or whatever. I would have a map of the entire guitar neck, 24 frets, with every location of the 7 notes and whatever key I was looking at. And I would just spend time just eye matrixing the fretboard, looking for patterns and shapes and things and ways to approach the fretboard. Which led to the whole fretboard visualization and fretboard autopsy series, which is, it's how, to develop fretboard visualization, you have to dissect the fretboard in so many different directions that you're kind of reverse engineering it. You're putting it back together once you're disassembling it and then figuring out how to put it back together and make the whole again, because if it's like buying a puzzle and looking at the picture on the outside of the box and then taking the lid off and looking at thousands of pieces in there going, how the hell am I ever going to make that look like the picture on the outside of the box? That's kind of how the guitar neck is. You know what I mean? It's thousands of pieces, if not more. That there's so many ways you can slice it up. I'm not even sure that we've done that as a human race yet. All the possibilities.
Do you think that's where a lot of burnout comes from people who are getting into guitar for the first time and wanting to, like most of us, we start off trying to mimic our influences and the music that we like, but not taking that next step to get away from that and start to create your own, what you actually want to do as an individual? Do you think that's where a lot of burnout comes in?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's very valid. The answer to that really is for anybody that might be going through burnout, because we all do that from time to time. But if you keep learning, as long as you keep learning, you usually won't burn out. I find that when I reach that burnout or just feel like, oh, everything I'm playing is the same or whatever, and I'm tired of it, that's when I've stopped learning something new. as long as you keep learning, you always have a new source of inspiration and a new outlet and a new direction that you can go with the tonality. Sometimes for me, all it takes is learning one new chord or one new scale, or even, not something on the guitar, like buying a new CD or hearing a new song by somebody, or learning a new lick or something out of a book, or something, that's all it takes. As long as you keep learning and have a source of inspiration, you'll always have something you want to pick up and try on the guitar. Now, you do have to continue to practice. You know what I mean? You're not just going to start coming up with great things by being inspired. You have to put the time and work in, because that doesn't come easy. That's not free. Inspiration's free, but the rest is all 100% perspiration.
Do you find that, you've taught so many people over the years, and no doubt different age groups, different levels of proficiency, and I know there's been some more sort of well-established players that have approached you as well, and you've helped them. What types of things are you sort of looking at? Obviously from a beginner point of view, you're starting from nothing and building them up and giving them foundations. But when you've got somebody coming to you who already has a profile, they're proficient in what they do, are those conversations and those get-togethers with those types of players, are they more around focusing on a particular technique, or is it more of a philosophy and a mindset around it, or looking at it from a fresh perspective?
I think it's all of those things, really. A lot of times guitar players will come to me specifically for techniques. They'll say, well, how do you do this, or how do you do this, or what's going on with this? And I'm really good at looking at people's form, how they're holding their hands, things like that, to simple adjustments. I always say, and I know you can't see this, but it's like if you take your index finger and put it right up to your thumb and just barely have a gap between it, that's how far we're always away from what we want, usually. You know what I mean? We're always that really close, but a small adjustment, a small tweak of something, your hand, your wrist, your arch and your fingers, how high or low you play your guitar. It's those small details when you get to that level of guitar playing can make all the difference in the world. And even for something as simple as a beginner, just making sure that a beginner's holding his guitar properly, or her, but that makes all the difference in the world. And when you don't know, you don't know. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's tough, man, being a beginner, because if you don't have anybody to talk to or ask about things, you could buy a guitar that plays awful with, the action could be a foot off the fretboard, right? And you just think the guitar is that damn hard to play because you don't know that there's such a thing as high or low action, So that's tough too, because that was me. I didn't know. I had some friends that played guitar, but I didn't really know anybody that was good, so could give me any kind of solid advice. And I'm self-educated. I tried taking guitar lessons, but I wasn't hip into Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and open chords when I was 15. So that didn't work out very well. But having somebody look to you now, kids have it easy today because there's the internet. You can turn on the internet, get on the computer any day of the week, and look up your favorite guitar player or anybody, and have your questions answered. Now, again, what you don't know, right? So a lot of guitar players will see a guitar player that's better than them and assume what they're doing is correct. I can't tell you how many times I've had students come to me that tried to teach themselves off the internet, and what they had, and the time that they spent, they developed so many bad habits just because you don't know. You see somebody's better than you, you think they're doing it right. So what I advise any young student or guitar player is, do your research. Make sure that whoever you're trying to learn from off the internet, if you're just watching videos on YouTube or whatever, make sure that you know that they're a legitimately good guitar player, and it's not little Timmy next door playing Smoke on the Water or something, because you need to do the research, because if you spend time with somebody that's just a few pages ahead of you in the book, so to speak, you're going to develop a lot of bad habits. I've spent, there's been times where I'd have to spend 6 months to a year correcting people's online learning mistakes, because there's a lot of people out there that should not be teaching and have no business to teach, but it's going to happen. So what can you do?
Have you seen that with established players as well, where they've come to you and you notice technique issues as well, like
Sure.
even though they've built a career on it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. I mean, it's little simple things. I'll point out, hey, did you realize you're doing that or this or that? And it's like, oh wow, I didn't even know I was doing that. Because that's the beauty of being a teacher. You learn to look for things and you analyze everything that you do. But when you can become a great guitar player, obviously, because there's millions of them, or whatever, hundreds of them, thousands, whatever the number might be. But guys that don't teach, or people that don't teach, don't analyze their playing like that usually. You know what I mean? So they don't, you just practice and you get good at doing whatever you're doing, and you don't really spend too much time on analysis. So things like that can slip by you. And then sometimes, what I think is not always correct as well. Like I had a conversation with one of my students one day, and we were talking about the thumb, and it's like, dude, I'm a big stickler on where your thumb's at, dude. Your thumb's got to be behind the neck. If you're playing open position chords or bending or vibrato, that's the thumb over the top of the neck, because that, vibrato and bending is a hand strength, not finger and joint strength. So my rule is usually, unless you're playing an open position chord or a power chord or bending or vibratoing, your thumb needs to be behind the neck, because you need that back there so that you can stretch to whatever it is that you might need to do comfortably. The higher your thumb goes, meaning towards the ceiling, the shorter your reach becomes. The closer you bring your thumb to the high E string, the wider you can reach, right? So I was talking to one of my students one day, and he's like, yeah, I was like, well, dude, Jason Becker plays with his thumb over the neck like that. And I was like, dude, there's no way Becker plays with his thumb over the neck like that. So we pulled up YouTube, and sure enough, Jason was playing all this crazy stuff, as he does, and his thumb was all over the neck. And it's like, man, whatever. So and the point to that is really that, people can make things work. You know what I mean? Everybody's hands are different. And what works for one person is not going to work for another. And that's the same thing with picking. I've watched all the fastest pickers in the world, and they all do it differently. They all hold their hands differently, whether they're closed-fisted, open fingers, coming in from underneath the side of the guitar or the top or whatever. You know what I mean? Everybody does it different. And I've looked at all those guys, but as far as picking goes, most of them have one thing in common. They're not flicking any of the joints in their fingers or thumb. It's all wrist or combination of elbow or some sort, not joint movement in their fingers. Now there are some guys that do that flicking the thumb technique, but I don't know. That's almost like, well, you're only going to be able to play as fast as you can flick your thumb. If that's important to you, to play fast. Some players it's not. I mean, it wasn't B.B. King's bag, but nobody gave him crap about it, right?
That's right.
You never hear anybody going, man, B.B. King, he plays with too much feeling, bro, and he doesn't ever play fast. Why is B.B. King he can only play slow, man? He can only play slow. What is up with that? Man, BB's only got one feeling. He's only got that one feeling.
Yeah, so one-dimensional.
I wish he'd play some sweep arpeggios sometimes, man. Get out of that slow thing, man. What is that all about?
Sounds like an idea to start trolling online just to stir people up. Yeah.
yeah. That was. Man, what's up with that guy? What's blues players? They only play slow and bend notes in one pentatonic box. Jeez.
Yeah. How boring.
Yeah. Roll. Right. Pardon me, sir. I have more crumpets to see. Yeah.
With one thing I've noticed a lot reading online is and you mentioned just before about sort of really enjoying that learning process and taking in information and that incremental progress of just getting better. And you mentioned sort of being self-taught, but from what I can see, there seems to be a mixture of you sort of doing the self-taught, but also taking on some formal education down the track as well to build up your skills. What's been more beneficial for you?
Well, all the work that I did at home is what really made me the guitar player that I am. The only thing I really had studied formally is I took music theory. I took a year of it in high school. And then when I got into college, I took music fundamentals as a brush up course because it had been 2 years since I'd taken music theory 1. And then the next semester, they were only offering theory 1 at 7 a.m. And I know myself too well. And I was like, man, I'm not going to move that class. So that's pretty much the extent of my schooling. I've taken theory 1. And I mean, that's helped me out tremendously as far as my knowledge of music and harmony and things like that goes. But I mean, I've got a lot of my harmony and theory from, initially in the beginning, it was Metal Method. Doug Marks had a great theory lesson or theory program. And then, I studied Don Mock's stuff and Frank Gambale and Scott Henderson and, all the fusion type theory, that gives you the understanding of how chord scales and melody harmony works, and, substitutions and every seventh chord contains two triads and things like that. And, how to superimpose, like if you play C major 7 over A minor 7, you get A minor 9, things like that. I got that from just studying, watching instructional videos and buying instructional books and things like that. And the chops thing, that just comes from me at home, busting my ass, practicing as much as I could, just being inspired by all the great guitar players. I grew up in a great time, man. I grew up in the heyday of Shrapnel Records. And, in that whole era in general, everybody played great. Even the guitar players that at the time I thought sucked, and I hate saying that because I don't like to think that anybody sucks. I think that just people are different. But, at my mindset at that age, I was like, oh, that guy sucks, right? So, but looking back, I was, it's like, wow, that dude was really pretty badass. It's just my standards of what I thought was good was, Yngwie and Paul Gilbert and Steve Vai and, the whole Shrapnel catalog, that's what I was going for. And I don't know. Did I answer? I think I meandered around that question. Did I?
No, it's fine. We're just, this is podcasting, so it's pretty much going off on any tangent. But it's like, yeah. I think the big thing about it is like I'm always fascinated with just the passion just for learning things and just for taking in information, and I think that's something that appears to be a real important aspect of you and what you're all about. So
yeah, I like to know, you know what I mean? I want to know what everybody's doing. I want to, I decided a long time ago what direction I wanted to go, but before that I was really torn. There was a time when I was in high school that I didn't know if I wanted to be a classical conductor or a jazz musician. You know what I mean? I was so torn between all these great styles of music, and it was just like overwhelming. I was this 15-year-old kid that discovered guitar and music all of a sudden became everything. And I listened to everything because the guitar players at that time were very knowledgeable of other styles of music. I wouldn't have listened to classical music if it wasn't for, reading that Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen and Yngwie and Michael Schenker and guys like that listened to classical. So that made me seek out that, Biggest thing that I always learned was, when your guitar heroes are talking, listen to what they're saying and then go follow up on it. If they're telling you that these guys were their influences, we'll go listen to those guys. And if they tell you they're listening to this, we'll go listen to that and see if you can make the connection of what they got from that and how it impacted their playing and see what you can get out of it, So I've always wanted to know, I can't, I tell my students all the time, not knowing music theory is a frightening thing to me. I can't imagine going into something completely blind and not having a clue as to what I'm going to do and just play exclusively by my ear, hoping that the next note's going to be the right note. You can always tell a guy that doesn't know theory. You go to an open mic, and it'll take the guitar player like 4 to 8 bars to find the key or where it needs to be. It's like if you know what you're talking about or know a little bit about music theory, at least you can say, hey, what key are we in? What's the changes? Cool, got it. I at least know what notes are going to work and what notes are not going to work. So whether I play well or not within that framework is another thing. But at least I know what to do. That makes me a lot more comfortable. It's like imagine being dropped off in the middle of the night, out in the middle of nowhere, and saying, "Oh, hey, find your way home." If you don't starve to death or get eaten by wild animals, you might eventually get there. But if you had a cell phone and some GPS, you get there a hell of a lot faster. That's like knowing music theory. Or imagine, not being able to read the, whatever language it is that you speak, right? And then trying to communicate with people. You couldn't tell somebody directions because you can't read street signs. You don't know what restaurant you want to go eat at because you don't know what the hell the sign says in front of the building. You can't read the menu, so you don't know what's on it. Hey, you got a menu with pictures? So that's what not knowing theory would be like to me. It's like terrifying. I can't imagine going into something and not having a clue as to what to do and why it works. Certainly, it's been a learning process for me, obviously, but I've always been really into just studying that stuff. I would sit and read books. When I was in high school, I would take my metal method books to school with me and stick them inside my school books to sit in the back of the class. And that, my teacher thinking that I was, actually being studious. Now, kids at home don't do that. Make sure you make your grades, but don't do what I did. But
yeah.
I took a theory class when I took fundamentals in college, because that was the precursor to Theory 1, you know what I mean, which would never ended up happening. But I was in a band at the time, and the other guitar player, we took fundamentals together, and we'd go to rehearsal at night. And he'd be trying to play, scale X over whatever key, and I'd be going, dude, weren't you paying attention in class today? And you see that a lot. Theory guitar players that know theory and they know how to play guitar, but they don't know how to make the connection from theory to guitar. That's a strange thing to me as well, because I always would naturally, anything that I would learn, I would go instantly try to put it on the guitar, because that's your instrument. So that always blew my mind. How can you take that class and know that stuff and pass it, but then you pick up your guitar and you're playing the wrong scale and the wrong key? I never could understand that fully, but anyway, just,
It's kind of like when people read a lot of books, and I'm certainly guilty of this, where I just love learning lots of different things from different backgrounds, different perspectives, and it's sort of like knowledge isn't quite the power, like a lot of people say. Like, knowledge is good to have, but you got to put it into action. You've got to actually do something with it. And I think that
absolutely.
Disconnect is huge, because a lot of people will just, especially now with like the internet and the way we consume media all the time, we're just constantly consuming, but we're not really doing anything with it, and it just becomes noise.
No. And what it is, it's desensitization, and it's also very much what I call short attention span theater. And I'll give you a good example of this. I would have people that I would run into, fans, and they would profess to be, my biggest. I was their favorite guitar player, guitar hero, and they were their biggest fans in the world or whatever. And then they would go, oh, hey, when are you putting out a new Outworld album or something like that? And I'd go, well, dude, I haven't been in Outworld in like 10 years. It's like, how can you profess to be a huge fan, and when I have that stuff flashing as big and bold, like, strobe lights on my website or on my social media going, hey, this is what I'm doing now. Look, check it out. Listen, and people not see that. That's a great example of short attention span theater. I think people just skim the surface and don't even really, it's like, oh, hey, cool, click. Okay, cool, click, whatever. It's like an information overload, in which that's not a good thing, because then, people aren't really picking anything up.
It's true. And it's a constant struggle. I mean, I find myself falling into that hole quite often, because you just get this thirst of like just wanting to just digest as much as you can, because it's exciting in a way, because you just there's always something new to look at and something to listen to or read, and then before you know it, you sort of look back and go, I don't actually know what I've taken in. Like, it's all gone in one ear out the other.
Yeah, I think it's like, for me, when I was learning how to play guitar and growing up, people that grew up in my generation or whatever, we were starved for information about our favorite artists. I would go and buy the album or the cassette or whatever, and I would take it home and read all the liner notes. I wanted to know everything that said, every word. I wanted to know everything I could find out about my favorite guitar heroes. I'd read and scour every interview and, just study and absorb that stuff. And now with the internet, there's so much information. Nobody's picking up, really latching onto anything. It's like, great, you can go download one song off some person's album. How are you going to truly know that person as an artist if you're only downloading a song here or there? And you got to buy the whole thing, listen to it, digest it, consume it. You know what I mean? Really get into it and listen to it. We didn't have any choice, and that was a good thing, really, to be honest, because then you got to know, if you didn't, imagine if you would have bought Blizzard of Oz or Diary of a Madman, or just bought, Crazy Train and didn't listen to the rest of the Blizzard of Oz.
That's right. Out of context.
What a narrow view you would have had of what that amazing group had done, So, I think that needs to be addressed, or I don't know, that's just my perspective. I think it's important to know, who it is that you like and what they're doing and their catalog, But that's just me. I'm old fashioned,
I think there's a lot.
I want the whole thing. I still want to hold it in my hands.
Yeah, the tangible, the real deal. Yeah. No,
yes,
I'm the same. I'm the same. And luckily, I got the tail end of that era of just pre-internet and only having so much money that you could buy one album and that's about it. And so you were forced to, especially if you you didn't quite like it on that first listen. You're like, oh damn, like
Yeah.
what I've felt is I've wasted money, and now you're forced to have to like it, and then eventually it clicks, and you go, oh my god, like I've realized,
get it.
yeah, now
Get
it
it.
makes sense. You know?
Yeah, I had that happen a lot with albums. I'd buy a new album by somebody and I'd get it and go, whatever, and chunk, and then like a year later I'd get it back out and go, oh shit, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That just happened to me recently with Gojira.
Oh yeah.
I had heard about Gojira for a long time, and I bought one of their albums. I think it's called Magma, maybe. And I bought the album and I had it for about a year, and I just put it in and I didn't get it. You know what I mean? And I was sitting here earlier this year with my son listening to it, and it was just like, man, it just hit me like a 10-ton heavy thing, man. It's like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. And they really are. I love Gojira now. They're a great band, and they go places that are unconventional, and that's very bold. You know what I mean? They're going and doing different things. They don't just fit in the genre of metal with all the other metal bands that are out there now. They truly are doing something new and unique, and that's pretty hard to do these days, or being courageous enough to do that, and stand behind it. It's easy to jump in on the trends and just go sound like everybody else, because you're just trying to, do whatever, make a buck, but it's much more gratifying in the long run to just do your own thing. Don't follow somebody else's path. It's cool to be inspired and influenced. Just don't wear it on your sleeve.
Well, I think it's inspiring just to watch other people make that attempt to go outside the box and do something new and take a risk, and just see where it goes. Yep. And yeah, something unconventional it inspires other people to think, well, maybe I can take a risk in my own world and see what I can do. Yep,
absolutely. When I, from the beginning, I didn't pick up the guitar to play other people's music. I always knew that, I'm going to pick up the guitar. I want to be in a band. I want to write and put out records. That from the beginning, day one, that was always my intention. I've always been very focused, driven like that with anything that I've done in my life. And, I come from a motocross racing background. When I was old enough to get on a dirt bike, that my parents and brothers had me on one because they were already racing and stuff. And I did that and raced BMX. And, that's what, I would probably have been retired from right now, professional motocross racer. But things changed in my teens. My dad got tired of racing. He'd done it. I was the last kid, and he'd already done it for my big brothers. And he just stopped taking me, and I would race with my brother when he would take me when he could. And I finally got upset with my dad, and I said, all right, fine, I'm selling all this crap. And I sold all my dirt bike and all my gear and stuff, and I bought a new guitar. And he swore for years that he wishes that he would have bought me that new dirt bike. I can still hear my dad's famous words echoing down the hallway in our old house. Can't you do anything besides strangle that thing? My guitar playing. He's like, I don't understand what you're doing, but I appreciate your dedication.
Yeah, good on you.
I remember he had me out in the yard one day working on painting the fence or some crap, and I had Flexible C-Vice Flexible album playing, and it was like Call It Sleep or something. It was a real weird whammy bar stuff, you know what I mean? My dad was like, oh, Jesus Christ, I can play guitar better than that. It's like, my dad was Chet Atkins. That's the one thing that I got from that for sure. Is my listening to. There's great country guitar players out there, man. Brent Mason, Scotty Anderson, Chet, Jerry Reed, some phenomenal guys. Most people don't know about that. You talk to a guitar player and go. A rock guitar player, you go, oh, you like country too? And what country? So I'm like, whoa, ease up, bro. I'm not talking about commercial country on the radio. I mean, there is great country. There's, regardless of what genre of music you play in, there are badasses in every style of music.
Yeah.
You just have to do you got to research it and find it. You got to seek it out. It's not always going to be on the surface, because usually badass musicians are not the ones that are on the surface, because it's usually, commercial stuff, pop stuff, or whatever, pop country or whatever you want to call it, top 40. So you have to search. And usually if there are badass musicians playing in those bands, they're not playing anything that would strike you as like, whoa, dude, I want to go learn that. It's always at least for me, you know what I mean? It was always hearing somebody tearing it up. It was like, I didn't listen to Prince until I heard the end of, When Doves Cry, when he busts that little outro solo. I was like, holy shit, this dude can play guitar. Let me check that out. I was in a record store in high school. You know, they used to have these things called record stores where you go buy albums and shit.
Wow, yeah.
Those are things of the past. You know what I mean? I don't. Today's generation doesn't know what that is. That's okay. They've got iTunes. So anyway, I was standing in this record store in high school, and that popped on the end of When Doves Cry, and I was like, "Holy shit, Prince can play the fuck out of guitar, man!" So that's a good example of, you know, a great musician, but just going a different direction. Obviously his own direction for sure. There was only one Prince, you know.
Well, that's it. And also gives you, you know, that opportunity to progress as your own player, because you're getting to see other styles and other ways of approaching the same instrument, and then obviously extending from there and looking at different instruments or different ways of communicating through music, and that makes you a more well-rounded and unique player in your own right as well. So it's good to be inspired on a number of levels outside of your own, you know, comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been working on some Brent Mason stuff lately. You know, that dude's a phenomenal guitar player. Have you heard of Brent Mason?
I don't think so.
He's a big Nashville guy. I don't generally listen to country music, but I listen to country guitar players. You know what I mean, in those situations. So he's been on probably, you know, the majority of country albums come out of Nashville in the last 20 years. He's a big session guy. Kind of like Steve Lukather used to be before Toto took off. He was like one of the top session guys in LA. Well, they have those same type of guys, but in Nashville, and Brent's one of them. He's got an album called Hot Wired. It's just all instrumental country guitar stuff, man. It's crazy. It's kind of like the Hellcasters. Have you ever heard the Hellcasters? John Jorgensen, Ray, and Jerry Donahue. It's kind of like that, but a little bit more intense, actually. And then like Scotty Anderson. Have you heard of that guy?
No.
Dude, Scotty Anderson's this country guitar player. He plays with a thumb pick and his two fingers on his right hand, and he can do like double and triple stop runs as fast as Malmsteen on a clean telly with compression. You know what I mean? It's just like insane, dude. Check him out if you get a chance. He's got a few records out.
I've just scribbled it down, so I've got some homework to do after we get off this call. I'm looking forward to it.
There you go. Yeah, there's great stuff, man. And you know, it's just like imagine, you know, when somebody says like, "Oh, go check out classical music," you know, that classical is such a huge, vast thing. You know what I mean? You can't just tell somebody to go check out classical and expect them to actually find something cool on the first go. You know what I mean? I mean, because, you know, you could go check out classical and you might pull up some elevator music. Yeah. You know, or something you hear when you're on hold. Mm-hmm. But if you're a guitar player and you're telling somebody to go listen to classical and you go, "Hey, man, go check out the 24 Caprices," you know, or something like that, then you're going to be on the right track. So you've got to know. I mean, that's just like, imagine never hearing rock and roll ever. And then think about the vastness of rock and roll. I mean, we've got things all the way back to Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry and the original blues guys, you know, all the way up to modern death metal or deathcore or crabcore or Nintendo core or whatever you want to call it, man. So, I mean, there's so many different genres of just rock.
That's right.
You know, because that's all an offshoot of rock. You know, rock and the blues. You know, I mean, rock and country are offshoots of the blues, really. You know, so it's a huge subject. You know, I mean, you might be listening to, I don't know, Bo Diddley, and then, you know, pop on a Slayer album. You know, it's such a diverse, extreme, you know, difference. You know, Buddy Holly. You know,
well, that's what makes it so reckless to just go and say to somebody, you know, go and check out rock music. And just let them go into the universe and just cross your fingers that they find something that makes sense for them.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's almost that. I mean, that's pretty humorous, really. Yeah. You know, hey man, go check out this new style of music called rock. Check it out. Just do some research. See if you can find something you like. Yeah,
I came back with Elvis Presley and Behemoth or something like that. It's like, oh, geez,
right.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. Some Sepultura in there, man. Yeah. That's pretty funny. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just like, you know, when I first heard Metallica, I had never heard of Motorhead or Diamond Head, and you know, looking back now, you know, at the time I thought Metallica, you know, and this is not to take anything away from Metallica in any way, shape, or form, but at the time I thought, man, dude, I've never heard any music like this ever in my life. you know, but then later on looking back, I can listen to Diamond Head and Motorhead now and go, wow, I can hear where they got some of that stuff from.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I could hear the influences, you know, which I didn't, you know, I'd never heard those bands. So it was like the most amazing thing in the world, you know. I always, you know, when I was a kid, I wanted to be in a band that wrote songs like Metallica and soloed like Yngwie. That was my goal. Yeah, earlier you were asking me about, you know, you're talking to me about teaching. I don't know if I addressed all the things you were asking about, like, you know, what do I do? What happens when I sit with an experienced guitar player or professional guitar player? You know, I think to answer that question fully, it was really a mixture of all of those things. There are, you know, just, you know, I think some of the best lessons I've ever taught, there were no notes played in those lessons. You know what I mean? It's just the information that you receive is more valuable than, hey, here's a new lick or a new scale or arpeggio or whatever. You know, it's that information that you get and what you do with it. That's the value. You know, talking to somebody about technique and form, theory, and harmony and stuff like that. You know, that information will go a long way if you take it and work it. You know, so I think there's a lot of that, and then, you know, analyzing form and technique, and, you know, just, you know, sometimes it's just talking about, you know, because I kind of look at myself from a teaching standpoint as not just a teacher, a mentor, a guru, a coach, you know, trainer, all that stuff in one. So we can talk about anything from developing your career or developing a following to how to set up your gear for studio versus live versus at home practicing, or, you know, anything and everything in regards to guitar playing, from career to practicing and all that stuff. You know, learning how to practice is tremendously important, you know. Because if you don't know how to practice, then you can meander around for years and not get anywhere. You know, I've had guys that come take lessons from me that have been playing for 20 years and have a kid that's been playing for 2 years that smokes the dude who's been playing for 20 years. It's what you do with the time that you have.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll think to myself, dude, you've been playing for 20 years, bro? Really? What have you been doing? Oh, I've been playing some Ted Nugent songs, man. I don't know. So, you know.
I think it's important to give that context, isn't it? Like to be able to explain things and put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so for people on the outside, they don't understand that they're missing a piece to begin with. And so you can identify it and say, well, what you're doing here is fine. However, in the grander scheme of things, you know, adding these elements or thinking about it from this perspective is going to make a world of difference. So as you said before, just that tiny little adjustment could make all the difference in a technique, but even a mindset perspective. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, just, again, what you don't know, you don't know. You know what I mean? So you don't know you're missing something. You know, that's the tricky part of it. You know, if you don't know, you just don't know. Thank God for the internet nowadays, right?
No, that's
so
right.
People can pay attention long enough to actually learn something.
That's right. The tools are there, but it's the ability to use the tools properly is what counts.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most difficult things that I've had adjusting to is the fact that you have to do everything now. You have to not just be a good guitar player. You've got to know how to record and produce. You've got to know how to shoot videos. You got to be up on social media and how to promote yourself. There's so much, you know, I grew up in the time where it's like, I just write the music and I go to a studio and somebody does that for me. And we release an album or whatever, you know. Now you have to do everything. And that's one of the things, you know, I was fought that like tooth and nail. It's like, man, I just want to play guitar, damn it. I don't want to spend time learning how to use Pro Tools and whatever, you know, and programming drums. Shit, you know, but you know, I've given into it now, and I'm working on my skills. I'm honing them as we speak, still to this day. You know, I'm learning how to, you know, do all my own stuff myself.
Well, it's taking that same approach, isn't it? That when you start out in guitar and you learn as you go and you develop and progress, and now it's doing it with a new skill set and building on that. Yeah,
it's just the part that frustrates me the most about it is that it's like, man, I could be spending this time practicing.
Yeah.
You know, it's taken away from my guitar playing, you know what I mean? That would always irk me the most, but it's like, you know, realistically, if I could take my own advice that I'm about to give, that would be great. But, you know, if you just spend a weekend or a week just diving into whatever recording software, DAW you have or whatever, it's really not that hard. You know what I mean? You know, there's plenty of online tutorials and things like that, and just about every question you could ever ask, somebody's made a video with the answer in it or something like that. You just have to, you got to be committed and spend the time to do it. And that's something that I fought, so I don't want to do this, but it's come to the point where it's like, well, I have to do this, so now I've got to, I just got to conform, conform or be cast out, so to speak, like the great philosopher Neil Peart once said.
Well, I think, having the additional skills opens up new possibilities as well, and enables you to be more versatile and be able to create additional opportunities down the track as well. So, looking at it from that glass half full perspective, it's a
absolutely, because there'd be many times I'd be in the studio and I could hear something in my head, but I couldn't communicate to the producer or whoever what I was trying to do. And it's like, well, just let me over there, man. Let me try to turn some of these dials and stuff, and figure it out. But the cool thing is you can sit at home now in your own home studio, and if you got the recording software and stuff like that, you can really sit and experiment and really find yourself in your music, because it's just you. You know what I mean? You don't have to rely on anybody else. That's total self-sufficiency, and that's a beautiful thing. The concept and the idea and the reality of not having to rely on anyone else to get anything done. Because if everybody I worked with worked at my pace, I'd have like 20 of my own albums out, but that's not always been the case. I've always had to rely on other people. Wait for them to get the parts down and then go to the studio and record their stuff, so I could then go on and record. And things would have taken way too long, man, for me. But that's why I'm trying to get all this stuff down so I can just do it. You know what I mean? If you know it, you can just come in here and you turn it on and you go. The biggest problem I had forever was coming in here and trying to turn it on and learn what to do. And then by the time I got everything figured out, it's like, oh, I'm not even inspired to play guitar anymore. I'm pissed off now.
Oh, know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, from a guitar point of view, you've shared in this chat, but also, over the years, all of the different guitarists that have inspired you, not just in sort of the metal and rock space, but outside of that as well. But are there people that sort of have inspired you from a mindset and a work ethic perspective that are just completely outside the music world, or people that sort of, because I know that you also, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but in more recent years sort of got into bodybuilding and things like that. Are there people sort of outside of music altogether that just sort of get you going from an inspiration perspective?
Yeah, for sure, man. I've always been big into self-help books and things like that. I've been reading that kind of stuff since I was in high school. Not any one particular author. I mean, somebody that I read, in the early years, Think and Grow Rich and Millionaire Mind and The Richest Man in Babylon, all the way up to, what is it? Something for the Soul, Chicken Soup for the Soul or something like that, Jack Canfield. And, that stuff is very inspiring and it keeps me driven. You know what I mean? And it puts you into perspective with what's really going on in your life and how to think about what you're doing, and makes you look at what you're doing. You might be upset with somebody else, and it might be actually you that you need to take a look at and make an adjustment. You might be the problem and not the other person. Things like that keep me very inspired and motivated. And I was lucky enough to, right when I was starting to work out, I met this guy, Lee Labrada, former Mr. Universe, calls me up and he's looking for guitar lessons.
Wow. Perfect.
So he's like, is this the Rusty Cooley? And I'm like, is this the Lee Labrada? We were both like fanboying on each other. So it was cool, man. So me and Lee have been great friends through the years, and I've had the pleasure of knowing him and calling him a friend, and he's been a huge inspiration. I look at Lee and it's like every aspect of his life is success. Everything he's done, from being a professional bodybuilder to being a CEO or whatever, his own company and his own nutrition line, to anything that he does, he's been successful at it. He's a great guitar player too. I taught him for a long time, and he's got 2 records out now.
Amazing.
He's got Corey Glover from Living Colour playing on one of the songs, and Paul Pesco, who's on, I think Paul played with Madonna.
Wow.
And he also played on a lot of stuff that I don't know of, but he's also on Daryl's House, that show with Daryl Hall.
Incredible.
It's a live show, or it's not, I think it's a live show. It's on TV cable somewhere. So he's playing with these guys and doing that. So he's been a huge inspiration, and just successful people. And I'm a sucker for success stories. Seeing the underdog come up and succeed and just push through and take it. That's always inspiring to me. Just seeing people fight through the trenches to get where they want and do it because that's what they do it because that's what they do. They don't have anything, it's not that they don't have anything else to do, but you do what you do because that's, You have to do it. I mean, a small example of that would be, like when I was writing my instrumental album, I was raising 2 kids at the same time and taking care of them and teaching and then rehearsing 4 or 5 nights a week and things like that. And it's like, people will be like, dude, how can you play guitar and do all that stuff? And it's like, I don't know, dude, you just do. I just do. You have to, if it's something you want, you figure it out. You'll make a way, find a time. Yeah. I mean, another example is like when each one of my kids were born, I never treated the house any differently, meaning I still practiced at night, at a reasonable level. I'm not cranking it up in the middle of the night, because a newborn would adjust to its environment. So if that's what they know, that's what they know. But if I'd have guys come into lessons go, dude, I can't play now at night. I don't know what to do because I'll wake the baby. And it's like, dude, you don't have to treat it like that. The baby will adjust, Again, I'm not saying that you're cranking it up, but I mean, you can play at volume on the amp and still practice with your kid in the room next door or whatever and not disturb them, So that's I practiced every minute of the day that I could find a free moment, but I never understood that whole thing with, I can't play. We got a new baby in the house. Sure you can, dude. Just get in there and crank that shit up.
Well, I think it's one of those. It's a mindset thing, isn't it? And I think we want to find an excuse to, for a lack of a better term, be lazy. And sort of steer clear of the pain of working hard and grinding it out to get better. And it's hard work. Anything that you want to do and be good at, you've got to put the time in. And for a lot of people, that's a big turnoff because you want the glory straight away without putting the hard yards in. So I think people find a reason to justify their that lack of drive to get better.
Right. I think it's it's everybody wants that instant gratification. I want it now. And then when they find out, it's like when Guitar Hero was popular, dude. Everybody came in and thought just because they were good at Guitar Hero, they were going to be a real Guitar Hero. It's funny. People would ask me, hey, dude, do you play Guitar Hero? And it's like, no, dude, I suck at that. I'm actually a real Guitar Hero. Spend some time playing the instrument, and you'll get good. There's no cheat codes for guitar, really. You know what I mean? You actually have to put the time in. I mean, if half the kids that spent that much time playing Guitar Hero spent that much time playing real guitar, they might be a real Guitar Hero.
That's right.
I feel like sometimes for myself, and this might be applied to other people, I feel like when I have less time, I'm more productive because I take advantage of every moment I have.
Definitely.
I find when I have a lot of free time, then I'm like, oh, well, I can do that later.
Yeah.
And then it ends up not getting done. So I think sometimes when you're strapped for time and you've got more responsibilities and things that have to get done, then you really appreciate that moment that you have in that time. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I got to get in there and practice. You know what I mean? Whereas if you have all the time in the world, then you're like, well, what's the rush? Sometimes,
you procrastinate.
Now, the other thing I was going to mention, we were talking about motivational books. Here's where I made the connection. I was sitting at a friend of mine's house, and on his coffee table, he had the book by Bruce Lee, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. And I picked it up and started looking through the preface. And within a few turns of pages, everything that he was saying was the exact same philosophy and mindset that I used for guitar. It was just like instant connection. And what I've discovered through the years is that anybody, no matter what field of endeavor that you're in, and I've discovered this firsthand experience, all of the most successful people that I know, regardless of what they do, they've all done it with the same mindset and same drive and dedication and commitment, And I think it's people like that no matter what they would do in life, chosen path would be, they would be successful at it because they have that drive and that understanding, I suppose, if you will, to how to get it done. It's like when I was talking to Lee when I first started teaching him, the same thing he did to become a world-class athlete, Mr. Universe, was the same way I would practice guitar. We would do the same things, and when I discovered the thing, looking through the Bruce Lee book, I then went and bought a book by Chuck Norris's autobiography and read that. And so I started picking up more books by successful people just in general, their biographies and things like that. And, it's the connection is the same. Everybody that's successful has done the same thing pretty much, the same work ethic,
Yep, that's right. The dedication, put the hours in, put the time in, and you just got to keep showing up, even if you're not inspired that day or not motivated. You just got to. They're the days that count. They're the days that are probably the most important because if you can get through those days, then everything else is a breeze.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've had some of my best rehearsals with bands on those kind of days, or when I was sick and didn't want to go. It's like, I remember, with the Metal Method stuff, Doug Marks, was talking about that earlier. Doug, the beautiful thing about Doug was, is that he's not only a great guitar teacher, but he's a great motivator. And he knows how to get things done and knows how to inspire people, at least me. And he's obviously done a good job of inspiring lots of other people as well, because he's still doing great in business. But that was huge to me, having that coaching, I used to put those Metal Method cassettes in my headphones, and I had a cassette player that would flip the tape right when it was done on one side. So I'd sleep with those running in my headphones all night long, you know what I mean? So it's pounding that shit into my brain, I was submersed in it. When you want something, you just got to go for it, dude.
Absolutely.
There was no backup plan for me, my mindset then was, the backup plan is just preparing yourself to fail. Why do I want to spend time working on what I'm going to do when I don't make it what I do want to do, So it was always this or nothing, man. It's, here it is, play guitar, figure out a way to make it, or be out digging ditches or something.
The non-negotiable, just got to make it. It's a do or die sort of mentality. You just got to dive in there and make it count.
Yep, it's gonna happen. It's got to happen, and making it, that's different in everybody's eyes. You know what I mean? What does making it actually mean? When I was a kid, making it meant, being on tour every day and selling big records and being a quote rock star. But I think anybody that can make a living making music is successful.
Absolutely. I think it's inspiring for me to listen to you sort of reflect on a lot of this stuff, and also to see, how much you've put in over the years to get to where you are now. And I think you nailed it when you just said before, like, I think if you're able to do what you love as a full-time gig, to be able to earn a living and immerse yourself in that, then, geez, that's success. Anything on top of that is cream on the cake, so to speak. It's, so you've done it and you're doing it, and which is super cool. So that do or die or non-negotiable sort of perspective in the beginning, it's paid off and continues to pay off for you, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And it hasn't always been easy. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been some really low times through the years, with the music industry and stuff, but there have been a couple of times where I thought, man, am I going to have to go get a real job? But thank God, knock on wood, I've never had to actually go do that.
I'm going to dump a whole bunch of links in the show notes for this episode so people can check out Day of Reckoning, check out all of your stuff, go down the rabbit hole of Rusty Cooley.
There you go.
But is there anywhere that you prefer people to be directed, or just to the main website and go from there?
Actually, probably the best place to keep up with the most current things would be my Instagram page. Yeah. Which I'm just going to sit here and go, what is my Instagram page? I think it's Rusty Cooley Official. I'm so bad with that stuff. It was Rusty Cooley Official, and then my personal or fan page on Facebook, which is just Rusty Cooley 1 or Rusty Cooley Official as well.
Sounds good.
My website is out of date, and if there's anybody out there that wants to trade, like for guitar lessons, Skype lessons, to build me a new website, I'm totally down for that.
Hey, I like it. So, there's a call to action, folks.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Help. I need some help, man. I need a new website.
Cool.
Gladly barter for lessons. So.
Hey, well, that's
the best place to find me, or my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel doesn't really have what's currently going on. It just has all the videos and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the most direct place at the moment. Instagram and Facebook.
Sounds good. Well, I'll dump everything in there, and so people can get the full experience and learn all about you, or rediscover as well. I was one of those people that certainly have known about you for many years and seen bits and pieces over the years come and go, but never sort of until recently sort of sat back and looked at everything and went, wow, you've done a lot, and you continue to do a lot, and you're just one busy guy, which is super cool. It's really inspiring.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Hey, if you want to reach out to Rusty, you can go to rustycooley.com, or you can go to dayofreckoning.bandcamp.com and check out their latest release, Spread Your Disease. As always, everything will be in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. And by all means, please reach out to Rusty if you enjoyed this chat. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Send him some positive vibes, a bit of Andy social love, and everyone that's been on this podcast over the past several years. There've been so many amazing people, so many amazing stories, and just the fact that they've given up so much of their time. If you enjoyed any of these amazing chats and got something out of it, you connected a little bit with these amazing guests, shoot them an email, shoot them a DM, leave a comment on the socials, spread a bit of that Andy social love there in their direction, and I'm sure they would absolutely love to hear from you. So before we wrap it up, Patreon, of course. Patreon.com/Andy Dowling is the place to go to support this podcast. You can set and forget at $1 a month, dirt cheap. You won't even notice it. And of course, if you want to support a little bit more, you can get access to an exclusive Patreon podcast every week that comes out Tuesday mornings, Sydney time. And there's other cool little things, including an old school newsletter that is mailed out every month into your little letterbox or PO box around the world. So lots of cool things in store. Lots of goals being set, lots of plans for the future. So get behind it if you can. It's a massive help for this podcast. It covers a lot of the monthly costs of running a podcast. And more importantly, it just motivates the hell out of me to continue to improve this podcast and get it bigger and better each and every time. So thank you so much to everybody that's been supporting, in particular, my Social Circle tier. These guys are the significant contributors to this podcast. So we've got Andrew from Perth, Mick G from Sydney, Ash from Deniliquin, Ash, damn, Dan from Dapto, we've got Rod from Rayleigh in North Carolina, we have Saul from Oxford in the UK, Patrick from Canberra, Liam from Brisbane, and Chris from Sydney. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting in my top tier, Social Circle tier. It's a massive, massive help. And as I said, the most important thing is that it motivates me, all of you guys that get behind me on Patreon. It's absolutely huge. So there we go. Next week's guest. Well, we've got another musician. I'm on a bit of a roll with musos at the moment. So we've got another musician, an international guest. And what other hints can I give? Extreme metal. Yeah. So we're going a little bit more extreme, and a front man as well. So he not a guitarist or a bass player or a drummer. It's a front man, and I'll leave it at that. I mean, it could be anyone really. So until next week, take care. Thank you so much for the support and listening to me waffle on, and ta-ta.